Hi everyone, welcome to today's class on coordinating specification data. Today's session is a continuation from our specification sheets class where we set up some schedules for specifications across various different sheets and showed how to input the data. Today takes that a little bit further and we're going to go further into the schedule filters and grouping, how to operate using specification coordination views, specifying loadable system and detail components, as well as nested elements. And along the way, we'll be looking at how to validate the data. Okay, first off, let's jump into one of the specification schedule sheets that we prepared from our last class, which looks like this. So basically just a series of sheets with a schedule that's been split across it, which is able to be shown and populated via parameter data. Now we've got a slight change to the way that we populate these schedules in this class. I'll show you how we're approaching it now. So I'll just double click into the schedule and we can see all of the various bits of information in here. If I go over to the filter of this schedule, you can see now we're actually filtering by a parameter called Specification Option, and that is turned on, so ticked on for elements. That will now be the trigger for elements to show within this schedule here. Okay, so how do we actually tick that on and get things to show up in this schedule? I'm going to open up a plan here and we'll do a tile on our window. Now at the moment we're missing our basins here, basin type 1. Now in order to make those show, I can select the basin, go into edit type here, scroll down, and with this parameter, we can tick it on. So specification option, you can see it's already got the information populated. We'll tick that on, and that essentially triggers that to show. And hopefully you saw that sort of pop up in the background there. So that is now showing. That will now show up on our specification sheets as well. Okay, so with this sort of methodology, what you can do is you can go around, you can select elements, you can tick them on, and you can tell them to specify. Now that's done on an edit type basis. So by doing that, you're actually doing it for that particular type of element. So you don't have to repeat it for the same element. So if I do a select all on this, it will have been done for everything that's highlighted. Okay, so that's one way to go about adding these elements to your schedule. But what if you want to add them en masse? So to do this, you can be a little bit clever with your scheduling and sort of collapse schedules in order to tick on many elements at once, because it is quite tedious going through and doing those one by one. So we've got this many elements in here at the moment. Let's just close this one off. Now we have set up a specification schedule in here, a temporary one. Now in here, what we've done is we've added the field for the specification option, which is ticked on or off, the category, family and type, and specification group. Now you could go through and tick one by one, and it will add them based on the types. But if you'd like to tick all of these on in one single swoop, what you can actually do is go into the filter, specify what category you would like to tick on all at once, go to sorting and grouping, and then untick itemize every instance. Okay, with category as the sort. That will then collapse it into a single line with a single checkbox. You can tick that, and that will actually turn on all of those elements that are plumbing fixtures to show them in our specification schedule on mass. So a nice little handy tip to do them. When you're setting up your specification sheets, you may wish to filter them as well into specification groups. If I go across to our specification schedule, you can see that the filter at the moment, we've just got specification equals yes. So everything is showing that has that ticked. But you may as well decide to place them into a group, specification group equals, and let's just say FF&E. Okay, so that will reduce that down to just FF&E elements. Now, in order to make all plumbing fixtures FF&E, you can go back to your temporary view and you can actually do a drop down here, type it in, make sure it's exact, and now that will add FF&E to all plumbing fixtures category. Go back here and there'll be more elements that are displayed. Okay. Now we're just going to reset that just so we can see everything today. We have got headings for various elements. Okay, we're going to now jump into a 3D view, and we're going to have a look at how we can actually visualize what has actually been specified within our project. So let's go across to our views here on the side, and we have set up here a specification coordination view for plan and one for 3D, as we mentioned before. Okay, now as we've been ticking things on, they're actually been showing in here in various different ways. Now, if I just sort of undo, I don't know how far we can go back. There we go. I've just undone those changes and now it's showing less. Now, as things are ticked on, they will show up as requiring data or not. So here we have these continuous flow hot water units, which we may wish to specify. You can see that they're showing solid. If I click on edit type, we go down and we tick on our specification option there, hit click apply, they'll go red. Red basically means that you've mentioned or you want that to be included into the specification. However, it is missing data. Once the data has been accurately and completed, I should say just completed, they will turn green. If you'd like to uncheck that completely, you can do so, and then they'll actually go gray. So doing an uncheck will sort of inform others that you do not wish to specify that element at all. Okay, so by default, if I undo a couple, they'll show up as solid, and that's sort of a status in between yes and no. You can see that it's a grayed check box there, but yes, we do want to specify those. Okay, so we're going to go through now and add in some data to this element in a moment. Before we do, let's have a look at the filters and how they're actually working. So within the specification coordination views, we have a view template that's set up, and we'll go across to the filters and take a look. Okay, so basically what this does is it will show anything with the specification as empty, so the details, if any details are empty, it will show them as red. If they're ticked on as having specification option on, and the information is completed, it will show as green. And if you tick it off, as we saw before, it'll go grey and transparent halftone. Okay, so let's just have a look at the empty field here. The way that this works is it goes through and it looks for anything that's been ticked on, and then it will look through these 4 fields. So specification group, specification, keynote, and manufacturer. Now it's wanting those to have a value, and if they don't have a value, if it equals that, then it will trigger the red. So in other words, those fields. let's go through and specify some data for these loadable components. I'll go into the edit type here and I'll scroll down and I'll find those fields that we were looking at a moment ago. Okay, so I've actually left all of this data empty so we can go through and populate it together. So first off, we have a keynote value. We're going to head into our FF&E. We're going to look for our hot water unit. Where are you? Let's try that using our Pi Revit Keynote Manager. It's under architecture. There it is. We're going to plug that into our elements. So that's under architecture there. I'll just try that again. Edit, keynote, architecture, hot water unit. There it is. So I'll click OK on that, and that's now input the keynote. Next, we're going to input manufacturer details. Website is always handy. So we've got a URL there. Description, we're just going to call this continuous flow hot water unit. Our specification, this information you can get from the manufacturer's website. So we've got the Infinity 26 and all of these details. This is a long text field. Once you've got an image, you'll be able to specify that. And our specification group, like that to be in our FF&E. Click OK. Now that they're all completed, as you can see, they've turned green. So that makes it really easy to tell what has and has not been given the correct data. Now, what happens when it comes to nested components? Let's select this ladder system, for instance. It's actually got two parts that need specifying, but at the moment, I can only click on one of them. So what you need to do there is go into the family system, go into the nested family component, check that on as shared, and load that back up the food chain. So in this case, it's going to go back into the access hatch. And then we're going to load this back into the project. And then hopefully we should be able to tab down, select the ladder independently, and go through. We can actually tell that one to be able to be specified or not specified and fill in data specifically about that ladder as opposed to the whole system, which you can select. Now that's going to be very handy for things like compliant toilets. I have done the elements separately here, but if you did have all of those together, you'll need to go through and tell those to be shared nested in order to specify them independently. Okay, so how about when it comes to system families? Okay, so we're gonna let's try and have a look at our specification plan for this. Now you can use this same system for system families, and system families are things like walls, floors, ceilings, roofs, etc. If I select, say, this floor here, and we go edit type, you've got all of the same information here. Specification option. Once again, that's a grayed box until it's been interacted with. Then we're going to tick it on. That will then show it up within the specification. And we're going to fill out the specification data. So let's just have a look first. So that's gone red. That's what we want. Click edit. Go fill out the specification information. And we're going to pop that into our specification group called finishes. And those will now go green. Okay. Lastly, how do we specify a detail family? So sometimes you may have things that aren't necessarily modeled within your project. To do those, what you need to do is you need to set up some sort of space where you can put in some placeholders. Now, detail families cannot be included within the schedule, and that's because they are detail components, and the specification schedule does not allow detail components to be part of a multi-category schedule. So to get around that, let's just say we're in our detail here, and we go, okay, we've got a bolt here, a dyno bolt, but I'd like to actually specify that in my schedules in some way, or a different schedule. So short of modeling that into the project, which is what I certainly don't want to do, I've set up a specification repository. In here, I've set up a little cube, a placeholder cube, and I've just created a new type called bolt. Okay, and I've just placed that bolt 2D on top of it, so I know what it's actually referring to. Now, this placeholder cube is what will hold all of the information. Because it's a generic model, because it's a 3D element, what we can do is we can go in, we can actually tick on that, fill out all of the data. So again, it's all the same information, specification, click OK. And that cube now will hold that information. And if we go into our 3D coordination view and we turn off our section box, zoom out, we've got a little space here, which has our specification repository, ensuring, of course, that our view is set to show everything. You can see that this is our placeholder for our bolt. Here's another one for some cap flashing as well, which is missing information. And again, this is how you'll validate that information within your schedule. In conclusion, using these approaches should give you the confidence to efficiently populate a specification schedule with detailed information across a variety of Revit elements, as well as check and validate that nothing has been overlooked in the process.